I've always hated the term constructive criticism. Why? Because the word criticism, well, it pretty much implies just things that are not good, right? Like a deficit or a deficiency. So something that we suck at. Or something, in terms of criticism that maybe somebody might be giving us unjustly. So constructive criticism sounds like this great way of, hey, I'm going to tell you why you suck, but I'm going to do it in a nice way. So I've always tried to, for myself and for my team, talk about constructive feedback. Okay, I know it's just nomenclature, but there's a difference in the word. I mean, just the word criticism makes you just has a terrible negative reaction. And why am I talking about this week? Because for the last couple months, I have probably given my team so much constructive feedback that they're probably losing their minds. And I hope not, because I want to keep them on, the positive path. But it's really important for me that we give feedback to those that we want to continue to develop, including me. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But it doesn't always feel good, right? Because we want to be perfect. And even though we know we're not perfect, even though we know when we are not meeting an expectation, or maybe we're not progressing as much as we want to. And as I'm watching this, I see a little hair that's even out of place. So see, there's some constructive feedback on myself. Actually, that might be constructive criticism. But we may know in ourselves that we're not, right where we need to be. But when somebody else says it out loud, especially your leader or even maybe a colleague, it doesn't feel good. And I get that. We get that. We all know that. So how do we turn our mindset from constructive criticism as something we have to protect ourselves and kind of, arm ourselves against, versus feedback that is really meant to develop us further? And I think this is a great topic for me this week, because I'm actually receiving a lot of feedback from my team and the team in our sister company, KukwaBiz, about how to make onboarding of our team members better and give them more resources and more support as they go along earlier on. And here's the thing, for the last several months, I've known we haven't done the greatest job bringing people on board. I know we haven't given, a high level of training, and I know that. But then as I start to get the feedback on it, there's that sense of, oh, but now when it's written down or it's said or it's spoken from somebody who's looking at it objectively, and it feels bad, right? It doesn't feel good, because now, even though you knew it in your head, now it's out there. And I figured it was an interesting exercise because, like I said, I've been putting my team through some, pretty challenging feedback in the last couple months, really trying to help evolve them as both companies evolve at new levels. And sometimes probably my feedback has not been very comfortable, because I'm pushing people a little bit farther, a little bit faster. I'm moving them in directions maybe they haven't had as much experience with, or enough confidence in, or enough of a track record of success yet. But I've always said to people that I don't spend time with people who aren't worth my time. In other words, if I don't think that you can or will choose to make it and continue to advance yourself, then why would I dedicate my time and energy to that? So if I'm spending time either giving you my time to give you constructive feedback, or aligning you to somebody else to help you and work you and give you constructive feedback, then that means I see something in you that's worthwhile and worth the investment of the time and the energy. And it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy, especially when you're trying to move people from one level to the next. And recently, this last week, I did a live webinar for a group, had over 100 and some people on the line, 110, 112 people on the line. It was fantastic. And we were talking about personal branding, and we were talking about how you make sure your brand is out there, and what kind of brand message are you sending about yourself, not your brand message from your company, but your brand message about yourself. And as I talk about it, your personal brand, and what I'm always asking, what are the words and phrases that people use to describe you when you're not in the room? In other words, what are they saying about you behind your back? And if you don't know or you aren't sure, then there's a little push then to get you to start figuring out what image you are conveying and trying to control the message. And if you do know what they're saying, but it doesn't align to how you want to be known for, then you have to take a lot of initiative and a lot of work to change how you are viewed and how you're interacted with. Now, this all has a lot of landmines in it, believe me. In fact, somebody asked the greatest question on that webinar and they said, what if I don't know how I'm being described? How do I find out without, looking like I'm spying? Well, and it comes down to finding your truth speaker. That person that you work with that maybe is not your best friend. In fact, sometimes your best friend or your closest friend in the work environment is not the person you should go to with this, because sometimes they're not going to speak the whole truth because they don't want to hurt your feelings. But the truth speaker is the one that you can go to and say, I would like to have your feedback on how I am viewed in this work environment. What are the words that you use to describe me? What are the words that you've heard other people use to describe me? And you find somebody who will speak the truth to you in a way that hopefully won't be too hurtful if it's not all positive, but that will be definitely designed and driven to help you be better, to help you evolve. If you're not sure whether you like what was said about you or what you're hearing, then the question is, how can you change it? And that requires reflection. So that means you have to actually accept those things that you just heard. You have to accept them in you. It doesn't mean you have to say you have to believe everything they say, because sometimes people aren't going to give you all the right information, but that's where the truth speaker comes in. The truth speaker is the one that you believe is going to tell you the truth for the right reasons, not for their own agenda, not to hurt you or be harmful, but because they really believe that they can give you the truth and help you to continually be better. In that case, then you do have to kind of, embrace it. You got to take those words in, those phrases, those descriptions, and ask yourself, how are these words being manifested by what I do and what I produce? Now, this is the hard part, because then you have to actually make some changes if they're not in line with what you want your brand to be. So maybe you want your brand to be the person who's always dependable, the person who gets things done correctly, on time, or ahead of time. Maybe you are the person that is the glue that keeps everybody together, but that you still produce amazing things. Maybe your brand is that you are the person that anyone can come to when they have a problem, and you will help keep them aligned. Regardless of what the reason is or what your brand is, the question is, am I living and acting the way I want my brand to be represented? So as we go into this week, and I'm really thinking about this with my own businesses, with both businesses, and as I'm getting feedback about what we're doing well and what we're not doing well, there's the hesitancy and the tendency on my part to cringe too. Oh gosh, I hate it that we're not getting that right. But when you know you're not getting it right, you have the opportunity to grow. So we have to get past our own little, hurt feelings, or our own little sense of, oh, but that's not what I wanted to accomplish, and say, well, hey, guess what? I didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. Now what am I going to do about it? And therein lies the power. When you take control of your own brand message, you are saying, I drive my brand. And I drive it by what I say it, how I work, what I produce, what I do when I'm stuck. What do I do when I want to celebrate? What do I do when I need somebody to pat me on the back? What do I do when I need somebody to encourage me because I'm feeling frustrated? Those are the elements that we are in control of, no matter how we may feel at the given moment when maybe those words don't align with our brand. We do have control. We do have the power to control not only our own responses to things, but how we are known. So this is my challenge for all of us this week, is to think about and really focus on your brand. What is your brand? Not the company brand, not the brand of your position. What is your brand as an individual contributor? And does it align with the brand of the company that you work for? And if it does, fantastic. And if it doesn't, then that's the time that you say, maybe it's time for me to find the brand place that works with my brand. But regardless, knowing what your brand is and controlling it, and then operating in that vein will either enforce the positive of how your brand message is being received out there right now, or it will change it if it's not in the direction you want to. But you can control it. And how do we do it? You write down your brand. You write it, you post it, you look at it, you read it, you share it with others and say, my brand image is to be the most dependable person on any team that I'm on. That's one example. My brand image is to be the person that always delivers ahead of schedule. That's another. My brand image is to be the glue that keeps all the pieces moving and connected together within the organization so that anytime we might be running off the rails, I'm going to get it back together. That's another. Maybe your brand is creating new innovative ideas. Your brand is the one, you are the person who people know that when they're stuck and they need inspiration, they go to you. Whatever your brand is, make your brand statement, write it down, post it where you can see it, and then reflect on it. And then as you move forward, you might just find that your brand becomes everything you need it to be. Now, if you enjoyed this, please make sure to subscribe and like and leave comments for us. We're always constantly monitoring the comments, and we're making changes to what our messages are based on your feedback. But we also need you to subscribe, rate, and like us. So have a great week. And remember, motivate yourself so that you can shock your brand potential.